Hello, I think we're live. Yes, we're live. So today I don't have the best lighting in the world. Yeah, it's basically because here in the UK, it's winter currently, so yeah. But today we're going to be looking at my website, sandralinux.com, and I'm going to be trying to kind of explain what all the things on it are. So yeah. So you start off at index.html, so my main page you'll get here if you just put in sandralinux.com. Here I just have, kind of my video, and you can navigate here. It also says that you can install my extension. So you can click on About Me, and it will send you to mainpage.html. And this is one of the, as you can tell by the name, pretty much the main page. It has quite a lot of content. Stuff like, so my subscribe button, so you can subscribe. It lists all my social media. That's a bit outdated, but hey. It lists the gear I use, so stuff like the MacBook Air on my OnePlus Nord. My favourite websites, open source alternatives, so alternatives to quite popular software, which is open source. Best office programs, so I mainly list, I list open source office programs here. I've said the best search engines, so here are some really privacy respecting search engines. The only one on that list I don't suggest is Startpage, but yeah. So here are some web browsers. All of these are open source and privacy respecting. So quite a lot of these lists are to do with like privacy respecting services and software, and that's a bit of a theme which goes on throughout all my lists. Not all of them though. Some of them are just ordinary lists, but the ones that are about like privacy respecting services will have privacy respecting in the kind of description here. So I also go over the best web browsers for mobile. This was very recently added. Yeah, so I actually had to anyway. So the best app stores, so yeah. These are some really good app stores that not that many people know about. Yeah, this is about stuff that's privacy respecting. There's a lot of other app stores, but they're not so privacy respecting, and some of them are a bit insecure, so I won't suggest you use some of them, but these are some good ones that you can use if you're either on Android or iOS. The best email providers, yeah, so here are a few email providers you can use which are privacy respecting. Some messaging programs, which are pretty good. Recently Signal blew up a bit, and yeah, the only gripe I have with Signal is it requires Google Mobile Services to use it. So yeah, but it did get an endorsement from Elon Musk, which means it's blown up in popularity. So that one one's used a bit more than the others. There's Session, which is really good because it's secure, it's based on Signal, and it's very user friendly. But it's really private. And yeah, it routes everything through Tor, I believe. And yeah. It's a very interesting messaging app. LBRY used to be number 1 on my list, but the thing is, it's not very user friendly at all, and it's a bit annoying to use. So yeah, and there's Yami, which is a pretty cool messaging app, and there's Element, which runs on the Matrix protocol, and video calling platforms. Yeah, so here are some video calling platforms which you can use. So I especially like Calyx Meet. That's really cool. But I've never tried Linphone or Mumble, but I might try it sometime. I don't know. But yeah, if you're using something like Zoom, Skype, or like Cisco WebEx or whatever, yeah, you should probably switch over to all of these because they're more privacy respecting. Especially Zoom. I really don't like Zoom, but yeah. So the best operating systems, so like Linux is really great for privacy, NetBSD is pretty good, FreeBSD is pretty good, alright, just pretty much every BSD distribution is good for privacy, alright? Hayuka OS and Mac OS, but it is proprietary and has some security concerns to do with Mac OS Big Sur. Now I'm going to look at your comments just to see if anybody's watching. Yeah. You can leave comments in the chat if you want to say anything. Yeah, you might want to do that. So the best mobile operating systems. So I go over a few mobile operating systems which are all open source. So you know this list. I mean, like this certain list. But it like Calyx OS is pretty good. I've not tried it though. I've not tried any of these except from Lineage OS I've tried, but I've heard that Calyx is one of the best ones, and it has Android app compatibility, which is pretty good, so you can actually run Android apps, because it is Android, but it just doesn't have Google and stuff. But Ubuntu Touch is actually Linux, meaning you could have some app compatibility issues, but yeah, you can use that if you have one of the devices which support it. Graphene OS is only supported on Pixel devices, Google Pixel devices. So is Calyx OS. Lineage OS is supported on quite a few devices. But yeah. I talk about the best VPN services. In my experience, the best like pay-as-you-go services, best broadband providers. Yeah, so here I say that I use Bitdefender Total Security. It's alright, but it's a bit resource intensive, as I say here. I use Bitdefender Premium VPN, although I might be switching to Proton VPN soon. And I've got a video on Bitdefender VPN, which you can watch if you want to. My favourite games, my favourite YouTubers, my favourite Linux distributions. So I first go with Manjaro because it's very user friendly. If you want to use Linux, then I suggest you use Manjaro to start with. It's really great, and it looks like Windows in many ways, but it like works really well. Like it has such an out of the box like user experience. It's really great. But Linux Mint, yeah, so that's also really like Windows, and it's got a lot of packages since it's based on Ubuntu, and yeah, that's very stable, and it's also, what do you call it again, it's got a lot of apps. So yeah, so Manjaro is based on Arch, which could mean that some of the apps might not work, but you know. Fedora, which is I class as a very good operating system. It's owned by Red Hat, which is actually in turn owned by IBM, but it's a pretty good operating system. It's got the GNOME desktop environment. I don't want to offend any Linux users, so I just pronounce it both ways, just in case you think it's GNOME or GNOME. I don't know. But yeah, that's a very stock GNOME/GNOME Linux distribution, and it's pretty much all open source. So yeah, that's what you get. Ubuntu, yeah, that's very tried and true. It has quite a lot of good features. Canonical, who's behind Ubuntu, does sometimes get some slack for the fact that they're a business and they sometimes bundle in some kind of bloatware stuff like Amazon and stuff. So you might not want that, but yeah, it's pretty cool. Ubuntu, it's got the GNOME desktop environment. It comes with Firefox as default, although so does Fedora and Linux Mint. But yeah, it's pretty cool overall. I've tried it before. I've tried all of these Linux distributions except from Linux Mint before. I think I did try it, but most of the times I've tried it, it hasn't worked very well. Like, it just didn't work on some of my hardware. So yeah, but I talk about my favourite TV shows here, and I talk about my interests and my favourite font, which is Vendena, I forget. But all this website is in that font, except from up here, which is in the Ubuntu font. But yeah, so there's the other field, so the other things. So about this website. So I'd say it was a good way to learn HTML and share the news about my channels. So what do you call it again? Oh yeah, so this button will just do a bit of a silly thing, basically, where if you click on it, it will run some JavaScript and it will talk about how you're getting tracked and stuff, which is true and stuff, so yeah. But yeah, so there's my privacy policy. I don't think you need to look at that. I don't know. Contact me, so that has all my kind of contact stuff, and yeah. So yeah, my website's kind of I quite like it. So any comments? Okay, no comments. Why don't we look at the code of my website now? Because it might be pretty interesting for you to look at the code. My code is on GitHub. If I pull it up. Yep, here's my GitHub. So I keep all my code here, so you can fork it if you want to. I use Netlify for my personally. I use Netlify for my website because they do some great hosting, and number one, it's actually free, so I don't have to pay for it. Although I do have to pay for the domain, obviously, but you know. So yeah. So let's look at the code, why don't we, now? So, as you can see, it's kind of, so I try and write it in a human, reader-friendly format, so people can kind of read my code and kind of understand it. But yeah, so, I also have navigation, on the list of contents. One thing I forgot to show is search on my website. So it uses DuckDuckGo search. So when you search my website using the DuckDuckGo site search, let's say you search up home page. So it gives you results on DuckDuckGo. Yeah, I used to use the Google one, but I've tried to get away from Google stuff just for the plain reason that they do sometimes implement some tracking, and that's not so good. Yeah. Also, one reason why on my main page I actually used the subscribe button like I did is because the Google subscribe button that you can integrate into your site was cross-site scripting, which isn't good. So yeah, I have this instead, which is good. So yeah, thank you for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed today's video. What am I talking about? So if you want to like and subscribe and share this, live stream, be sure to check out my other videos. I've got a lot of those. I do a tech news series called Sandro's Newsflash, and that's where I try and give you the tech news in less than 60 seconds in a vertical format, which is usually pretty fun to make, and also they're very quick, and I release quite a lot of them. So if you've noticed recently, there's been more vertical form videos and more short videos, then that's why. I just make YouTube shorts, mainly, but I do make other videos and I do live streams. I do Sandro's week roundup where I give you the best bits of that week's tech news. Yeah. I also do like other things like browser reviews. One browser review that's coming up is a review of Naver Whale browser, which is a South Korean browser which I've used a bit, and I wanted to give my impressions on that. So that'll be one up and coming video. So subscribe to see that, as I've said before. I'm on other platforms like LBRY if you don't want to use YouTube. I'm also on Pinterest, as you can see here, TikTok, Google Keen. I don't usually have a list of these, but I do open right now, so yeah. But be sure to kind of check out all my social media accounts. Check out sandralinux.com. Maybe look at the lists. I suggest you switch to some of these alternatives because they really are good. Like maybe if you use Microsoft Office, you could try LibreOffice. In fact, I wanted to mention that I've actually been using OnlyOffice, which is quite a good Microsoft Office alternative. It has it looks like Microsoft Word, and it can make docx format documents, which is pretty good. There's also Apache Open Office, so yeah, I've never tried that, but I've tried LibreOffice, and that's pretty good if you go for the whole open source kind of goodness thing. But yeah, so goodbye. Roll the outro.